Ed and Eddy was a cartoon broadcasted in the United States from 1999 through 2009 for a period of slightly more than 10 years. But during that time, in the early seasons of the cartoon, the character of Ed was someone who often read comic books and knew a great deal amount of trivia based on them. With relation to the comics, Evil Tim was the main character of most comic books that he owned. When mentioning Ed's somewhat unhealthy obsession with comics, Double D and Eddy often mentioned that the comic book information that Ed was referring to being that of Evil Tim, and mostly content to the fictionalized comic character in the show. It also connects to the fact that in the early seasons of the cartoon, Ed is depicted as a somewhat mentally retarded individual whose obsession of comics is mentioned as a reason for Ed being so slow, but Evil Tim was mentioned many times from Ed's enthusiasm and fandom with his point of view. There was an entire episode dedicated to Evil Tim with It Came From Outer Ed, while the plot of the episode was that the Eds were devising and implementing a scam which didn't work, but during the scam, Ed's mind begins to wander, and his focus actually goes to a scam of his own. Double D and Eddy at first don't think much of it, but eventually decides to give him a chance with his own scam. The scam in question eventually turns into a comic-based ritual to summon Evil Tim, as they begin to question what they're doing exactly and if any of it will have any meaning at all. After performing the ritual based on instructions from one of Ed's comic books, they give up thinking that it did not work, but the ritual is actually accomplished and the episode ends with Evil Tim being possibly summoned. In later seasons, the unhealthy obsession with comics was minimalized and discreetly written out of Ed's character, and Ed's retardation is also lessened. One of the last times that Evil Tim is mentioned is as a tombstone in the episode They Call Him Mr. Ed. It's interesting that Evil Tim is dead, and the tombstone represents that, as it could be viewed as a reference to Ed's former persona in this series, and how he was changed towards the middle to end of the cartoon series. Sometimes a character can be forgotten, as it's not a character that's forgotten, but the original depiction or interpretation of one.